onto the second phase of bans.
And one pick that I'm interested to see would have been Pyke. However, it has now been banned out. But Darius, one of these champions that tore up solo queue since forever, but has never been a good competitive pick since 2015 Worlds, and now is coming back, especially as an answer to Irelia. I want to see if we're going to see it here. But there's still a lot of time to find out. Still a lot of flex picks, as you mentioned. Kog'Maw actually taken away from Attila. Interesting choice here from the side of Splyce.
I think that they're a little worried because Rageblade AD carries are still considered good in the current meta. And what we saw a lot from MSI was, oh, it turns out Kog'Maw's actually pretty good into Kai'Sa. So let's not try and run that anymore. Let's take it off the board. Camille's still banned away, even though junglers have been locked in. There's always the rest of that Trundle is still a flex support. The Irelia isn't actually in the top lane. So Team Vitality just saying, listen, we have an idea of what we want locked in, and whatever it is, we do not want to go up against the Camille.
And as we enter the second pick phase, champions to be aware of the Karthus Nunu combo, still up and available if someone wants to go for it. Pieces can be picked away, but a lot of the more unique, more, creative strats on 8-11 are not coming through, but that...
Heimerdinger for Attila. This is why he was on my players to watch. The man of creativity. We're gonna have some dongers on the rift.
Look, Vedius. What's crazy is this isn't even like the first Heimerdinger pick in forever. The last time we saw Heimerdinger was one of the troll games at the end of the split where the results meant nothing. So I can't even say this is a new pick for LCS, but 8-11 Heimerdinger coming through. We're going to have to see how they use it, what they do with this champion.
I played with this in solo queue the other day. I am perfectly prepared, Drakos. We can talk about it when we get into game. Splyce continuing to stick with standard. Cho'Gath likely going to be into the top lane based on the draft. Irelia I expect to be in the mid. You have Kai'Sa and AD carry. Trundle in the jungle. And now we're just looking for some kind of support. Morgana could be a big option here. Deals relatively well with the Zoe bubble. Reduces the amount of pick potential. But another...
Interesting.
We have seen a lot of Soraka pop up around the world.
Champion that's just so obnoxious to deal with. Everyone at home can testify to this experience. The healing, the silence, so frustrating.
Is so obnoxious.
Especially if you're a Fiddlesticks, if you're so spell reliant. But we want to see how Splyce is going to use this. Luckily for us, at least on the Splyce side, pretty clear where we expect everything to go in the pick ban phase. You said it yourself. But on the opposite side for Vitality, still some questions remain to be answered. Skarner in the jungle. Feels like the only 100% confirmation. Vedius. That...
I'm dancing right now.
I know you're dancing.
Irelia
mid, we've seen this.
Yeah.
Okay, great. You got a pick to watch. But sure, you did it. Buddy, that's a Heimerdinger fiddle,
dude, I love the Vitality draft. I was asking Yamato earlier on in the day, like, okay, can you, I'm really excited to see your draft. And he's like, so am I. I have no idea what's going to happen, but it'll be great. And I'm like, oh, can't wait. And they have delivered. This is the Vitality we expected. So, one of the big things the analyst talked about at the start of the day was their early game. Vitality last split dominated the first half of the regular season because of how strong their early game performances were. And Splyce, while during the beginning of the split they were a little bit more geared towards scaling to late game, they were able to transition out of that as Xerxe developed more as a jungler, and they were able to have their own early game impact. Now when you look at these compositions, Vitality haven't necessarily drafted towards early game strengths, but they do have a good mid-game spike. 2 items is what we're looking at for these guys. The Zoe, once she completes the Ludens and maybe even the Morello, that's when she's really going to start hitting hard. The Aatrox, things like the Rageblade and picking up the Ravenous Hydra will be 2 big items that will really facilitate his split pushing and dueling prowess. So we're looking at this mid game for them to really shine. And Splyce, you can say very similar things. Triniforce for the Irelia, Rageblade for Kai'Sa. Maybe the 1 item spikes. Maybe this is the opportunity for Splyce to show that they can get ahead of the curve if they are able to get through an effective laning phase.
And Vedius, I'm glad you can cut through some of the chaos here. Set some expectations for these teams. Lay down, set us up, see how exactly they want to play it out. We're getting ready for the first game of the EU LCS Summer Split. 8-11. I was wondering if it delivered in EU like it's delivered in the LCK and the LPL, and it definitely is. Folks, it's time to find out. Vitality versus Splyce. Who's going to come out on top? The rematch of the 3rd place in spring.
Drakos, the Summer Split is back, and what a way to kick things off with Splyce versus Vitality. We've got a Heimerdinger, we've got an Aatrox, we've got all sorts of crazy shenanigans, and I cannot wait for the action to start.
The return of the EU Aatrox, Vedius. Now there's so much to cover here. Individual champions we haven't seen so long, new meta, new jungle pathing, different jungle. Where do you want to start, Vedius? What's the first thing we need to look at?
Well, I feel like that in terms of the junglers, we're actually pretty standard. So let's look at some of the unique champions that we've got, mainly starting with this Heimerdinger, because he is the most unique, I feel, out of the entire draft. We've seen a little bit of Aatrox over in the LPL and the LCK, but with regards to Heimer, one of the great things that he does is push. You put the turrets down, you get an advantage on the wave, and you just constantly push under the enemy tower. And having that priority, having that pressure, means that it's easier for you to be able to contest towards the Scuttle Crab, which we know is high in value in the current meta.
And if I'm reading this correctly, that is 4 picks and 4 wins. EU Heimerdingers undefeated, Vedius.
Undefeated.
Attila wanted to keep the legacy alive. And I'm going to say, mini True Packs played a lot of, boring stuff. He played a lot of 80 carries. I like this Attila guy coming back, bringing out the Heimerdinger game 1. This is the kind of thing I can get behind. But for now, it looks like Soraka, Kai'Sa doing what they can to catch the farm. But as you predicted, Vedius, it's just going to be a push fest. Double turrets already set up, and Attila happy to just press for that early level 2.
And it's paired up with the Fiddlesticks as well, so you're going to have that obnoxious poke constantly coming out from the duo lane. But the thing you have to remember about this duo is it's very squishy. Both Heimer and Fiddle, very, very squishy champions that don't really have a lot of escapes. So if things like a Cho'Gath and Irelia come down to the bot lane, there's risk, but against a Kai'Sa and a Soraka, there's nothing they really have to be worried about, which is why we saw things like the Pike banned away in the draft.
Don't want to give them those all-in options. Jacktroll, kind of see how he uses those Pro Storms as he get closer to level 6, but now maybe a good time to check in on the junglers. Scuttle Crabs, of course, 8-10, made so much more important. So many of the new creative strategies kind of focus on securing those. But for now, it looks like it might just be the 1-for-1 trade on those Scuttles.
Yeah, the thing is about Scuttle Crabs, they give you a lot of gold, good experience, and they also give you some mana back as well, which is really valuable when clearing through the jungle. And Gilius decided to go from red to Raptors down towards the bottom side of the map because they must have had information of where Xerxe was starting. So he wanted to be in a position to be able to contest. They knew they had priority bot, and he was able to secure it. Now we see Nisqy setting up a gank in mid.
For the stun, taking his time there, not going to connect. I mean, no reset on the Blade Surge. Drowsy Irelia, pillars there. Xerxe as well, forcing out the flash from Jizuke, the real one too, not a spell thief either. So already a nice early successful gank coming in from Xerxe.
I like this focus here from Splice. One of the big successes that Vitality had last split was you enable Jizuke, you can run away with the game. Already Splice is saying, you know what, nope, we're going to try and put a bit of pressure down into the mid lane, maybe we can get our Irelia ahead, see what we can set up, and while they don't find any successful ganks, they get both summoner spells out from the Vitality mid lane.
And that's exactly what we want. You can see Hex Flash, interesting choice coming in from Jizuke. Pressure continues, and now I think we have to turn our attention to top lane. EU fans might not be a stranger to the Aatrox. That pick was born and bred here. Of course, Cabo now trying it out. What do we actually expect from this one? As you can see, some of the information we mentioned about Scuttle Crabs presented on your screen now.
So the thing about Aatrox is during the early laning phase, especially against like pushing laners such as Cho'Gath, you're typically pretty weak. You're pretty item reliant. Things like the Rage Blade and the Hydra is what really helps you get through the laning phase and really makes you a strong duelist. Up until then, ideally you just kind of want to play back fairly safe. You can see he's a little bit behind in the farm, but he will get to a point where he can very easily out-duel Odoamne off onto a side lane. In terms of teamfight prowess, he might not be able to offer the same value as a Cho'Gath, but I think one of the things they're relying on is drawing Irelia away from the teamfight, so moving it off into a side lane as we have a TP now in the bot.
Coming in from Kobbe. Xerxe on the way down. Second gank of the game. Getting in here. Silence goes through. Does manage to lock the Heimerdinger, but no follow-up there. Kobbe not in a good position to respond, so Attila and Jacktroll make it out. No summoners burned either, so a nice trade for them in the end.
This is the thing about Soraka, Drakos. She's not a really scary support. She's annoying. She makes it difficult for you to kill her because of the amount of heals and sustain she can provide in lane. But when it comes to gank setups, she doesn't really offer a huge amount. Now we've got to turn our attention to top as Gilius looking for a dive.
Gilius looking for a little bit of pressure, at least providing vision to make sure that they can continue to snowball this Aatrox. You talked about the 2-item spike earlier. Gets that Coinsurance, gets that Titanic Hydra is so terrifying. For now, though, just going to be content, soaking up extra farm here, bullying this Cho'Gath out of lane.
And it's interesting that we're seeing so much innovation from the side of Vitality, because when you think of innovation, you kind of do have to turn your attention to Xerxe. He was the guy that revolutionized a lot of different jungle picks. Rumble in the Jungle was one of his big favorites. He was the guy that popularized Ivern all around the world. Trundle this was him. It came from him as a counter to things like Olaf and Skarner, and coming into this meta, it seems that he's just going to stick to something that he is comfortable on, and he is not really trying to innovate too much. especially when you consider the things the Vitality are bringing
And look,
out.
it's game 1. He's already showing a pick that he's comfortable on, and we have to be ready at any moment in games to come exactly what he's going to do, see what he's going to pick, what he's going to bring out, what the next big pick from him is going to be, because Ivern, Trundle, very spot on in what turned out to be meta. And Rumble didn't work out so well, but we'll give him 2 out of 3 for picks that actually defined the metas where they were powerful.
Yeah, very, very true. Now, keeping our eyes on Attila, he has found Kobbe.
Dinger, Jacktroll.
Oh, the fear!
Oh, the fear! Oh, first blood! Kobbe's getting thirsty. Jacktroll's not going to give him a drink.
That was amazing from Jacktroll. The instant reaction from the fear. There is no heal on Kobbe because he is running the teleport. The burst was not enough. And Vitality, they secure first blood of the summer split.
And the point-and-click CC, man, the most frustrating thing in the world to play against for anybody. Just, oh, click, sorry, you don't get to play the game for a couple seconds there.
But this is why he's so popular right now in the current meta. Fiddlesticks, because he has such quick CC that is so effective against so many bruisers that you see in the bottom lane, it's very easy to just suddenly dissuade any hard engages in the bot. And Kobbe, he got a little too close, he tried a little too hard to find that kill, and unfortunately for him, it ended up costing him his life.
All right, the thing is, I think we look back at these teams, we see a bit of a slowdown here in the game, and Vitality already off to a strong start. Kind of the expectation that they set in spring, right? They were a team that started so well, and it went downhill after there, and the question we had to ask was, does this downhill trend continue as we enter this split?
Yeah, you would like to think that it doesn't for Vitality, and it was quite interesting when you compare that for Splice as well, considering they kind of had the exact opposite effect, where they started off kind of rough, going 1-1 very often, and then
Very
around
steady.
week 6, they seemed to just find their groove. Xerxe had much more of an early game impact, the roaring Romanian duo actually became a thing, and Splice were finding a lot of success towards the top side of the map, and this allowed them to secure 3rd place during the regular season. So it's quite interesting how both these teams have developed. Vitality did kind of fall off. I felt like their strategy was figured out. But so far in this game, they found a bit of an early lead. Jizuke is now the one looking for a roam. No summoner spells on Kobbe.
Eyes on the Sleepy Trouble Bubble on the Paddle Star. Is going to go in. Not going to connect, though. That's a big deal. May just have to back off there and accept that he's not going to get anything. Irelia and Trundle starting to make their way down to the bottom lane. Ready for a fight, but God, you got to be careful. The Heimerdinger upgrade on that tower, the Fiddlesticks potential CC, the Sleepy Trouble Bubble. It's all magic damage, but it's a lot of magic damage if you get caught out.
It certainly is. The problem with that roam from Jizuke, though, is he did lose quite a lot of farm in the middle lane. You can see that after the early gank, and the fact that he lost his flash, he's been playing a little bit more on the back end during the laning phase, and as a result, he has fallen pretty far behind Nisqy. And we talked a lot about those one-item spikes from Splice, where they have things like the Trinity Force, and you also have the Rage Blade on top of Kai'Sa. Those will be big opportunities for Splice to try and force things, especially around this middle lane, to try and shut Jizuke down and find Splice those early advantages.
Yeah, and I want to see exactly where Splice decide to put their focus once they get a little bit more control over this game, because you talked about the advantage steadily growing for Nisqy in the mid lane, looking good with that early sheen. And how Vitality counter this? You check in on the gold, though. Vitality's still 1,000 gold up. That bottom lane definitely a big boon for them, as well as on the top side of the map. Aatrox just continues to push in over and over again. Gilius.
Gilius.
Pressuring up. The Rupture, Silence is going to come out. He's going to try to stop this one. Gilius just going to ulti, pull him right back. All too easy. No chance for Odoamne to respond. A little bit of a walk down there, and a kill drops for Cabo.
You just talked about the item that was being picked up for Cabo. He had wave clear now. Thanks to the Tiamat that was finished, he could start pushing Odoamne underneath his turret. Gilius then shows up with the Predator. Jizuke sacrifices farm in the middle lane to just help set up that play towards the top side of the map. And now they're starting to enable Cabo to be this split pusher. We talked a little bit about if you have the Aatrox, you want to try and set him up for success, get him to those 2 items where he really becomes unstoppable. And right now it does feel like they're playing more towards Cabo.
And Jizuke, once again, kind of being the catalyst, roaming, sacrificing himself so much to get the team ahead. And we have big expectations for this guy. Rookie of the split, generates leads for the team all around start.
Wait. Oh, stun in the mid.
Going through. Oh, gonna flash over the disarm, though. Still the chase from Nisqy, and he takes him down.
Just as we were trying to praise the Italian stallion in the middle lane.
And look, we said he's the player to watch. And I think it's important to look back at 3rd place, because in that series, it was Nisqy who absolutely clapped Jizuke.
Really
a guy
did.
who we called an underperformer for the entire split, showed up in playoffs. And clearly, That has not changed now coming into the regular season in summer.
Finding a solo kill in the middle lane is exactly the kind of advantage Splyce want to gain a little bit more control back in the game. Sheen is the really big item for Irelia that you have to start worrying about her damage output. Jizuke, he overstepped a little bit in the middle lane. Nisqy, I believe, had a level advantage as well. And now he's been able to just instantly complete the phase, and he's well on track to getting around a 15-minute Trinity Force when that's when Irelia truly hits that spike.
And truly terrifying. Increasing the Sheen proc damage so strong with those repeatable blade surges. And Nisqy also keeps cleanse. Jizuke still does not have flash. And now you can see him playing so far back in his lane. He has to respect the potential to get dove on at any moment. But really, it's Cabo who might want to be scared. Kobbe, Kasing, Odoamne pushing in to break down this tower, but Jacktroll is here. Crowstorm is going to come in. There's the channel. Oh, Odoamne! That's a surprise party if I've ever seen one. Takes him down, make sure they're not getting anything else.
Vitality recognized that they could just leave Attila down in the bottom lane. Kasing and Kobbe tried to swap towards the top side so they could try and trade towers, and they decided to go for a dive. Jacktroll reads it beautifully. He ends up showing up at just the right time. He provides the assistance that Cabo needs to find themselves a kill and stop the push from Splice, but look at Attila, he's not done yet.
Just continuing to pressure in on that bottom tier 2 tower. The ingenuity coming through from Vitality. New picks, reading the strategy coming out from Splice, seeing the lane swap coming. And still, Attila is able to get the tower. They're able to stop the play on top side. Big advantage for Vitality Vedius. 3K, almost 4K gold, 11 minutes in the mid lane. Doesn't matter who Nisqy's solo killing. That's a lot to deal with. Nisqy, though, now has to be careful. Sleeping Trouble Bubble goes in. Trundle's going to body block it, though, and they are going to be able to back off, but a lot of damage already coming out.
We got to recognize how clean that was from Nisqy. He utilized the minions so well to dodge so many different things from Vitality, and then just when Gilius was about to get close to stun him, he uses his E to lock him down underneath the tower, and he gets away with his life. Nisqy, like, we gave this man a lot of criticism last split during the regular split, but he, after playoffs, just seems to be continuing that strong performance, and he is playing extremely well in this arena.
Massive farm advantage for him. And despite the global objective, surely a gold lead in his favor, getting closer and closer to finishing that Trinity Force. You talked about how important it is. Of course, one of the perks of having a Heimerdinger on your team is you drop those towers down, you let Skarner solo that dragon all too easily.
Oh, wonderful, and we can look back at this. So the big thing is that Jizuke used his ultimate to apply pressure, and that just makes it very easy for Irelia to land her stun, because you're, well, I mean, it's a set distance, right? She knows when you're going to show up, and it becomes very easy to then get the follow-up and maximize your damage with the Blade Surge. So, nice outplay there from Nisqy. Good punish, rather, as now Vitality still sitting at about a 3,000 gold lead, though.
Jacktroll spotted out. No more surprise parties for him. So they want to give him the respect. The duo lane is backing off. Kasing and Kobbe still each only level 7. Kobbe a ways off from that first item, Gwinsu's. And you check in on the rest of the lanes. Cabo already with that Titanic Hydra, getting more attack speed. And while Jizuke is suffering on the 1v1s, actually playing pretty well here. Is he going to go for more? Decides not to.
Decides not to take the risk. And I just want to use this opportunity, Drake, because you already talked about the Hydra up towards the top side of the map, but also Luden's Echo for any aspiring bot lane players that want to be picking up the Heimerdinger. You can see Attila is running the Aerie. He's decided to rush the Ludens. And he's right now setting up in the middle lane to continue the siege with Jacktroll off on the side, looking for a potential flank.
This is the threat. Gilius is taking every global objective. Vedius, this is an incredibly clean snowball coming in. That is all 3 outer towers down. First, Dragon going in their favor. Scuttle Crab's going in their favor, getting the Rift Herald as well. And honestly, if you're Splice right now, are you really safe under those towers? Fiddlesticks comes over the wall. Aatrox has the invulnerability, the respawn. Heimerdinger does so much damage, and you're constantly getting poked by the Jizuke. This seems so difficult to play against.
Yeah, I feel like it really is right now, and it all comes off the back of that priority that you had in bot. And the easiest way to think about this is think back to Caitlyn. You shouldn't have to think that far back because it was only a split. When she would take that first tower bot, you'd move her around the map, and her siege became nearly impossible to stop. She had that extra range. It was very difficult to shut her down. Heimerdinger is very similar, except he just does it with his mini turrets. Every time you try to get close to clear them out, you take a huge amount of harassment. There's the risk of you getting collapsed upon. And the extra thing you have to be careful of is the fiddle flank. This guy is just sitting in brushes, waiting for you to overstep, and he's already rushed the sweeper, so he is able to control the vision. And it's just a matter of Vitality recognizing we have the ability to push underneath these towers, we have control over the map, and we're utilizing all the tools that we have in our composition to keep the pressure going.
Very well done. Individual lanes really winning out too. You saw Cabo winning the top side, Vitality winning bottom. Yes, Jizuke was struggling in the mid, but 2 winning lanes is so good for Vitality to have. And despite what we saw from Xerxe early game, coming up mid lane, burning some summoners, going bot lane, trying to force these plays, it didn't really amount to anything for Splyce. And unfortunately now, this game just gets so difficult to play out. And you can tell, they'll let Odoamne pass, but if a juicier target shows its face, they're ready to go in.
The thing is, I will say that I feel Splyce do have a very strong teamfight composition, and the full 5-man with a couple of items under the belt, like you're looking at Kai'Sa, you're looking at Irelia, Cho'Gath, all really good setup and good damage in these 5v5 scenarios. And Vitality, they're quite content playing the 1-3-1 with the double TP that they have, the amount of poke that they have from the Zoe as well. But they know they're stronger right now, so they're just grouping, they're just forcing. They recognize Aurelia's on the top side, she doesn't have teleport, they have Rift Herald, so they're just playing the pressure map very cleanly right now.
There goes Shelly, and of course the changes to Rift Herald as well, making it a little bit more effective at taking down consecutive objectives.
They can keep pushing this.
They might go to the bottom lane instead, now threatening. They're looking to double down on towers. Aurelia's pushing in top in the meantime, but it could just be the 2-for-1 trade in favor of Vitality. No hesitation to use the Heimerdinger ultimate, the upgraded tower. Now push through a tower of Splyce's. Gold lead just continues to grow. 6K just about Vedius. And they're going to TP top to stop Irelia from getting anything in return.
Vitality were praised as being one of the best early game teams in Europe during the first half of the regular season in spring. They are continuing that trend with a 5,500 gold lead already. They have 5 towers to 0, 16.5 minutes into the game. And they're already setting records. First game of the split. Really admirable achievement.
Anything they do is a record, though.
I know. That was the joke, Drakos. That was the joke.
I was like, I don't know if you know this, but like, let's clarify here. And I think the thing is we know how strong Kai'Sa is. We saw what she can do at MSI when she has a few items under her belt. Despite the nerfs, she still is incredibly strong. The same is true from Irelia. There's a reason we banned this champion in every solo queue game ever. But I don't think it's going to get the chance to get to that point.
Well, that's the question, right? How well can Splyce force a full-on 5v5? And right now it is rather challenging because Vitality are playing the map very cleanly. They've got good pressure pretty much everywhere. They know that they are that much stronger right now with Luden's Echo already being picked up from both mid and bot laner, I guess would be the appropriate term to use. Attila now hitting level 11 to the level 9 of Kobbe. That is brutal. A 2-level advantage between the 2 bot laners. And like the thing is, I sit there and say from a compositional standpoint, Splyce should be able to win fights, but if Vitality fought right now, given the gold advantage that they have and just given the experience advantage they have, they should still win.
Yeah, they beat the tar out of it. It's easy. That is not all too easy for them to take down that fight individually. Of course, the other concern is there's so much magic damage on the side of Vitality. You talk about teamfight advantages. Well, Splyce are pretty comfortable building mostly magic resistance to deal it out. Downside is, they might not get enough time, as you mentioned. And QSS comes in from Nisqy. He has the cleanse as well. He's going to be tough to lock down, but now he doesn't do as much damage. So even if he isn't worried about Skarner anymore, not as much of a threat to the backline, not as much of a threat to that Heimerdinger, to that God, that feels so weird to say. Threat to the in a new meta. New meta.
You're adapting. It's fine, Drakos. The first person to cast a Heimerdinger on this patch. Quite the experience. Cabo now in a weird situation. Just wandering through the jungle that Vitality fully own. Let's take a quick opportunity to look at the wards. Not the most compelling thing on the current meta, but it's important because Vitality have set up some fantastic vision. They have the Baron in their eyes. It is spawning relatively soon, and honestly, given how much less damage Baron does compared to what it has done in the past, many teams are going for those very early Baron plays. And Vitality, when you have the Heimerdinger, you also have an Aatrox and a Skarner in there, you should take it relatively quickly. So Splyce, they don't want to concede all that vision, and you can see how they just put a couple of wards up towards the top lane, they've just abandoned the bot. They don't want to fight for Drake, they feel like they can't right now, and their whole opportunity is, okay, maybe we can find a successful fight at Baron, maybe we can steal it, maybe we can turn it around there.
And Baron just such a huge objective. From talking to a lot of people about how this patch plays out, it feels like, unlike last season where it was, hey, 3 Barons, 4 Barons, however many Barons you need to end these super late games. This game feels like 1 Baron, you break a base, you can end the game with the kind of leads Vitality are building up. And Baron Nashor as a whole, just so much less of a threat on this patch that a lot of champions can attempt it early. And, you know, between Fiddlesticks and Heimerdinger, I think they already had a pretty solid Baron.
So Zhonya is being picked up as the second item for Attila. He's just taking the defensive route. He recognizes, you know what, if I get collapsed upon, I can just buy time. One of the great things is you have your 3 little turrets, you then have the big turret, and when you're about to die, oh no, I'm golden, you can't attack me, so you can either stand here and wait for me to come out, or my turrets can melt you to bits. And so it's a pretty great early pickup, but it also just gives you that defensive option. So if he does miss position, maybe he gets stunned up by Nisqy, maybe Odoamne comes in from a flank, you then have that ability to buy time for the rest of your team to try and come and save.
It's important, especially when you're buying time for a Fiddlesticks to ult in, when you're buying time for Skarner to get there to disrupt a fight, or an Aatrox. Those few seconds are good for just about any champion, Heimerdinger especially. Check across the vision, as you mentioned earlier. Control on bot side is still there. Splyce, though, fighting back on the top side, fighting for that Baron, as you mentioned. Vitality, though, doing what they can to clear out the vision in the area. Grouping is 4. Full, and that is a great stat. You can see Xerxe, 51.05% jungle proximity. He was around his laners half the time. Did not amount to anything. Gilius power farming in the jungle paid off way more.
I feel like he was very much just trying to help his laners out a lot, because even though Gilius wasn't really ganking very often, Vitality just had a lot of pressure. And now Splice maybe looking for a collapse.
Jizuke just going to back off. Silence the disengage from Fiddlesticks, too much to deal with. Cabo is he going to go for anything more. Has the flash available. Good silence comes in from Kasing, though, to stop any aggressive engages, stop any more spells coming out. Vitality, though, complete control of the middle lane. Can turn to look back at Baron, get the vision down, set themselves up to take that objective.
More vision being played out. Vitality have priority in the middle lane. You can see that their eyes are set on the Baron. They don't want to commit to it just yet. That sneaky ward just outside the pit will not be spotted.
They do want to commit. Oh, but Aatrox not going to be spotted. However, Trinket is going to come in. We'll let them know that the Baron has been started. Doing a decent amount of damage. Going to keep it leashed with the towers there for now. Aatrox, though, at that terrifying 2-item spike point. You talked about it. Titanic Hydra. The Rage Blade to follow. This is the chance for Splyce. They need to win this fight. TP now coming in. Gilius going to go forward, trying to take down the jungle with a lock up the chain. CC, the Heimerdinger damage is there. Crow Storm coming in, getting taken down one at a time. Defiant dance from Irelia, but she's not defying anything. She's just dropping dead. Backing off now as Vitality set their sights on Baron. A triple kill for the Aatrox, and it's just all too easy for the Vitality squad.
Vitality find a beautiful fight. That was the last opportunity that Splice were looking for as Jizuke round things out with an ace. Baron gonna go down 22 minutes into the game. Vitality are looking dominant in game 1.
And when you think about Vitality, when you think about how they started their first split on stage, this is what you think of. This kind of dominance, this kind of confidence, these big fights and these big plays. And they're showing up here today. 10K lead, Vedius. 22 minutes into the game. You gotta wonder if that is the final nail in Splyce's coffin.
So at this point, okay, so we're looking first here. I didn't even notice that Kobbe just got obliterated before the fight even started. So that's one of the big damage dealers gone, but the fight didn't go their way either in the top side of the map as Splyce, they tried to contest Vitality. The jungler, funnily enough, is the initial focus from Gilius. I guess he recognized the cleanse and the QSS on the side of the Irelia. Said, you know what, let's just take out the smite. Once he is dead, then we can just clean up the rest of you. And with an Aatrox who has 2 items, he was level 14, they just melted through that Splice.
And they're so far ahead, they don't even need to group. Jizuke is literally picking off members left and right while the team is around Baron.
Blood for the Blood God, Drakos.
Oh my god, that
6,000 damage. It's just so disgusting when you have Rage Blade. The fact that you can proc Blood Price, I think it is, twice.
Yeah.
It's
Blood
crazy.
Price, Bloodthirst, either one, both so strong, individual on-hit effects, and all of the Aatrox mains out there are like, see, Riot? He's viable, we told you! Don't take him away from me!
It's the funny thing about this patch, you know, like, one small change was made, and then all of a sudden everything blows up. Wait a minute, how did we make Darius viable? How did this happen?
Wait a minute, you're telling me that we buffed Scuttle Crab and we nerfed AD Carry slightly and we ruined everything?
Well, right now, Vitality are more than happy with the changes, and they set their sights on their first game win.
Gilius may have overstayed there, but Attila, so much damage comes in. Cabo's there for the follow-up. Crowstorm from Jacktroll is a little bit late. The Dread movement speed, not enough to take him to the back line, but Vedius, Jizuke is just a Predator there on the outskirts, and they're slowly pushing this one in. They get locked up there briefly, but so hard. Jacktroll is there to peel. The silence comes in, says try to follow up on that. QSS not going to be used. Cleanse available as well, but it's too little too late. Vedius, Vitality, absolute domination here in their first stage game. Nisqy going in. Which is another death added to the scorecard. Vitality with the first win of the summer split.
Vitality looked clean. They came in prepared. We already said, we had a chat with Yamato. These guys were confident in this patch because they felt they had such a diverse champ pool. They brought out some meta stuff, they brought out some new stuff, and they demonstrated to Splyce that if you fall behind even slightly, Vitality do not take their foot off the pedal.
And honestly, just well played across the board. The execution in the individual plays. I think we cast our minds back to that first kill, that first moment, and that was the moment where you stay. If you're Splyce, you're scared. You're like, oh God, we've given the Heimerdinger a kill. What happens now? And what happened was beautiful responses across the map. Vitality not giving up anything as they snowballed the game. And your first game on stage, that's the kind of confident finish that you want to start you into the season.
Oh yeah, that is definitely for sure. Vitality, they want to aim for bigger and better things. They finished 4th last split in their debut split. And now they want to make it to finals, they want to make it to Worlds. I remember hearing that they were frustrated that they won't have that opportunity to play at Rift Rivals. But we've talked a lot about Vitality. I feel like we just didn't see a lot from Splyce. I feel like that given the draft, they were put on the back foot very early on. They tried to make a play around Baron that ended up collapsing underneath them. And hopefully we get to see a little bit more from Splyce. It's still only the first game. You go up against Vitality with this very crazy draft. But given how well Splyce performed at the end of the day, we can say yes, Nisqy, he played extremely well, but outside of that, not a huge amount of talking points to the side of Splyce.
Absolutely, and I think you look at it, drafting 2 lanes that are going to get pushed in, a difficult spot, but also in this meta, how are you ever confident until all 5 picks have been locked in, even after that you have the pushing lanes, that you have the setup that you think you have from the draft, and it's Vitality who are rewarded for their creativity here, showing us some new things, showing us new picks, and Splyce playing a little bit more standard. Trying some more conventional strategies, more conventional lanes, and really not paying off for them.
But you know, in honor of Attila and the fact that he brought out the Heimerdinger, we have to think back to a famous quote from Heimerdinger himself. And he says, if you cannot heal him
or cure him,
then you simply bury him. And that is exactly what they did to Splyce.
Oh, God. Well, throughout the split, you guys are deciding your player of the game. At LO eSports on Twitter is the plays. For this game, it stands between Cabochard, Attila, and Jacktroll. So head over there, vote. What are you thinking, Vedius?
I think I would have to give it to Attila. I think he was the whole reason why they were able to find these early advantages, where they got all that pressure from, and he played Heimerdinger, man. How can you not vote for that?
How can you not vote for the Heimerdinger, man? He's ruining solo queue. He's winning on stage. Everything you want from that experience. I mean, it's a good look overall.
Yeah, I cannot wait to see what Vitality bring out tomorrow. Will it be new? Will it be more of the same? Who knows? We still have 4 more games left to go for the day, and we've already started off with a banger.
Absolutely do. Well, for now, let's send it over to Laura, who's standing by with Vitality's AD carry.
Thank you very much, Drakos. Indeed, I'm here with Attila after the first win of the split. New name, new splits, new meta. How does it feel to be back on stage after this long break?
I mean, it feels pretty natural. We just blink and, you know, it feels like it was yesterday that we were here against Fnatic in the semifinals of the playoffs, and just another day in the job, and it feels good to start it with a win.
Awesome. I gotta ask, because obviously everybody is wondering what is going on with the game right now.
I mean, there's nothing going on the game right now. It's just, you just don't pick AD carry. Whoever refuses to it, well, you know, you can be good at it, or you can just get cheesed. I prepared Heimerdinger only for Splyce. I wanted them to have a mental break. I played Xerxe before, I played Heimer now. Let's see what I play against them in the next round.
Mental break to start the split, that's a good thing. Heimerdinger, you were playing it before. Apparently it's a pocket pick from yours, but why did it fit it here?
It just fits because I play it. It doesn't matter what I play, it just fits. You know, like last split, nobody was playing these random picks. I was playing Xerxe, and it worked pretty well. They said it was cheese when we won. Well, now I guess it's another cheese, but we still won, right? So what matters is the win.
Do you feel like this patch is really good with you and Vitality at the moment?
Yeah, because we actually can play a lot of champions, so it's pretty good for us. I think it's a meta that actually benefits the guys with a big champion pool, so that's what we are.
And you prepared some other pocket picks for the rest, obviously? Anything you could?
I mean, I had Heimerdinger already in the last split already, so they can just embrace themselves. I'm gonna cheese them.
Awesome. And we may expect from pocket picks from you, but that's all for us on this side of the stage. We're gonna take a short break, and right after, it's gonna be H2K versus Giants. Don't go anywhere.